Thank you, Dr. Mercury. I'm going to start out with a little piece of creativity that I put together a little while back that will kind of maybe start our discussion a little bit here. And hopefully this will work. Okay. Nope, we're not getting our audio. There we go.
How do you know that? Creativity is restricted to subjective into conscious brain processes, the worlds of the metaverse. Vision vast and complex.
The impact of new technologies.
Into a world of non-human creativity. Creativity is not subjective internal conscious brain processes. We are going into a world of non-human creativity. The human vision is vast and complex.
So this was put together shortly after the House of Lords presentation on AI, and I was inspired to pull this together because of some of the obvious themes there that they were talking about. All of the images that were in that presentation are from DALL-E 3. All of the music was generated using some Euclidean sequencers. We'll talk a little bit about as we go here. Was music that was not played by me individual, every single note played by me. It was actually a computer generating something and then putting those two things together. So just to kind of set the stage for now, I have a background in IT, but it's not AI. So I'm not your AI expert today. There's going to be other people here that are going to be better qualified for that. But what I'm going to try to do is highlight some ways that AI is impacting my industry and how I've been trying to study AI and learn as much as I can. I do have a music background. I do play quote unquote real musical instruments, guitar, bass, some percussion. I play keyboard. I have some musical training. I've sung in chorus. My wife and I sing together. So I'm what you would call, I guess, a pre-AI musician. I guess you can coin that term now if we want. And the way that I'm going to try to approach this is we're going to take a look at a very big overview of things. And I think that it's really good that they put me first today, because I think a lot of what I'm going to talk about is going to go, there's going to be more depth later today, particularly the legal track or the legal session and some of the more compositional stuff. I think those people will go a little bit deeper into those things. What I'd like to do is have an overview of the state of things today, some things I found interesting that hopefully you'll find interesting as well. And then we're going to eventually talk a little bit about Johnny Cash, and things are going to get a little weird after that. You'll see what I mean. So some caveats here. Again, it's an overview. I'm trying to keep this non-technical. We're going to ask a lot of questions, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for discussion at the end. But I'm not saying there's going to be any answers. There's going to be a lot of things that we're just not going to know the answer to after today, and maybe not for a while. And yes, there will be a point where it's going to get weird. This image was made by the Bing connection between DALL-E 3 and Bing, their image creator, and all of the other images in this presentation were made with Bing. So one of the things I've been thinking about a lot with AI is that there's a lot of different sections of the music business that are getting impacted by that. And I also wanted to try to think about, well, what roles in the music business have I played that might impact me in my career as AI comes along. And I broke this up into a couple different sections. We have people that are involved in the creation of music. We have people that are involved in the administration of music. And then we've got some other folks along the side here that exploit that material. And I mean exploit in the capitalist way. I don't mean it in the negative way that it can be construed, but they are exploiting the work of others in some way for profit. And then we have these other folks here that are kind of ancillary to that. These are folks that still benefit from the music industry in some way, while not even writing music or playing an instrument. Out of all of these are things that I've actually had a hand in doing. Some less than others. Most of my time is spent writing, recording. Periodically, I'll do a review for somebody. I'll write a review of a band or a CD or an album. And I've done web development for artists as well. So there's a good, I think, a good cross section of skills that I've built up over the years that I see AI potentially impacting. And that's one of the reasons I'm studying it as much as I can to understand what does this really mean for me and the other people that might be composers or lyricists, et cetera. And I want us to think about these things in the way that I've broken it out here, where we have things that are process related in the yellow. We've got the end result, where the people that are using the end result of that process and working with it. Every one of these areas, whether it's highlighted in yellow or not, are going to be impacted by AI in some way. And the ones that are making the news are the ones about vocal replacement, stem separation of audio, all of these fancy things that you'll hear about. But every single one of these is going to be impacted in some way. And music is obviously, it's used everywhere. And one of my favorite uses of music recently, although I really don't understand what Ozempic is, I still have this like theme song in my head everywhere I go. And what they did was really smart. They found a song from the 70s that was a popular hit. They got somebody else to write lyrics for it. Now, I don't know if that was AI or not. I don't think so. I think that was somebody that really crafted. I mean, all it says is, oh, Ozempic. I mean, come on. But that probably cost them like a few $1,000s to do that. And I think it was brilliant how they did that. But that's a piece of culture that has now come back in 2024, 2023 to be with us. And
You're telling me they didn't license the music?
Oh, they had to have licensed the music.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's what's called that's what's called a derivative work, because the music existed before. They just took out the lyrics.
It's not a derivative work.
Yeah. Well, that's what they call it.
They licensed the music, they just didn't.
So this is just a snapshot of everywhere that we can see music being used. Sometimes it's kind of subliminal. We don't even realize it's there. And this relates to how big the music industry is from a dollar standpoint, which we'll also take a look at as we go. But then we have these other folks here that I call beneficiaries of the music industry. And some of these are direct. We've got obviously the fans, the musicians and singers themselves, people that enjoy doing this for a living or enjoy doing it part-time, and they want to keep doing it. And some of these folks are more business oriented than others. But then we've got these indirect beneficiaries, and this is where the AI companies kind of fall, because they're technology companies. They're not singer-songwriters. Very few of them are going to end up being singer-songwriters. And we've got all these different platforms that are generating this technology that is going to affect the cultural aspects of this, this music or creativity that we're developing. And then we've got additional beneficiaries that are people like educational institutions, hospital, places that you hear music in the background that you don't even really think about it most of the time. Now, as we move through looking at AI and music, I want to talk a little bit about the anatomy of a song. So we're just going to take an example of a typical song, and within a song, we have a few different components. We have the song itself, which is probably in a recorded format somewhere. And that song typically has lyrics and music. Let's just say it's a vocal song. Each one of these elements within this song has metadata attached to it. So, you know, the lyrics might be the lyrics themselves, but it might be the language that the lyrics are in. It might be the places and things that are mentioned in the lyrics, the mood of the lyrics. The music has a whole lot of metadata attached to it in terms of style and tonality and key and all those types of things, tempo. So we could think about each of these as little building blocks, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes as far as metadata with these. So if we take an example like Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison, which he recorded in 1968, we can take a real quick.
Planning to move? Join
Sorry
the
about the
6 million
commercial.
family to discover a smarter, more flexible way to move with Pod.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
I hear the train a coming, it's rolling around the bend, and I see the sunshine since I don't know where. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps rolling, and down the side.
Okay, so it's our good old Johnny Cash. That was recorded live. You could hear the crowd there. The song is in the key of F, happens to be in the key of F, and that was 1968. We fast forward to 2002, the same song was recorded by Kev Mo.
I hear a trailer coming, rolling around the bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. 'Cause I'm stuck in a holy rhythm. Time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps rolling on down San Antonio.
Okay, so we got Kev Mo of 2002. It happened to be in the key of G, same lyrics, pretty much. Recorded on a soundstage, most likely, no live audience, and a different experience. But it's the same song. So in terms of Johnny Cash's portfolio of music, or his family and his legacy, who owns that music right now, that song is something that you'd have to license to be able to use. And if somebody's going to do a performance of that song again, they have to do the right thing to license that. Now, later on, we're going to look at some different lyrics to that song as we go here. So this is all just to say there's a lot of characteristics within music, subtle and otherwise, that computers are starting to be used in, starting to find ways, people are finding ways to use computers to address all of these issues here. And some of these are more vague than others. You know, context, if we look at the context of the first Folsom Prison song, where he's playing that to a crowd of inmates, that's a different context than the person on the soundstage performing that song. So I don't know when we'll get to that point where we can actually interpret context to an AI. Certainly technique and some of these other things we're already doing, or somebody's already doing. So AI has been with us for a while, and I didn't want to do a full history of AI here, but I wanted to at least acknowledge some of the names and techniques that are out there. And folks can explore this when we make this presentation available. But algorithmic composition, composing based on a set of rules, has been with us for a long time, hundreds of years. That's something that you would study if you're going to study composition. You would study that, and whether you want to use that in your music or not is up to you. Some people think of music as just being, I'm sitting with my guitar and feeling inspired. There's that type of music as well, but there can also be a more heady mathematical approach. Aleatoric music is the idea of using chance to induce some sort of musical movement in a piece. And so that's something that computers are also very good at, inducing randomness and assigning random values, whether it is to instruments or musical values. And then we've got Turing machines, which is another form of probabilistic music. And one of the names that you may be familiar with, Brian Eno, from the 90s, he came out with a lot of music that was ever evolving. One of his famous albums is Music for Airports, which is kind of meant to be background music. And he's been very active in the generative music front in terms of making actual apps that you can buy and interact with his musical style. And that goes back to the early days of the iPad, when the iPad came out. And then something I have been involved with as a composer is very interesting to me is Euclidean music. And I'll just give an example of that here. And hopefully we'll be able to play this. We won't play the whole thing, but this basically is an example of setting up some rules for some instruments and then letting it evolve over time. And it's using a certain type of rule called the Euclidean sequence. What a Euclidean sequence tries to do is take a space, no matter how big that space is, and evenly place beats within that space or notes within that space. And it's actually a form of composing that's very reminiscent of West African music. And you can actually hear this type of style in other music from outside the United States, whereas they don't call it Euclidean. It just happens to be what they do. Naturally, it's part of their culture. So I'm really fascinated by that type of stuff. So this is where we've been, and we're getting into a little bit more where we're going, but AI is moving so fast that I was updating this presentation pretty much up until today, last night. And there's not time to play everything from every one of these sources. We will highlight a few of these, but I wanted to talk a little bit about each of the big players, what they've been doing, some of the questions that are coming up throughout their development, and how they're approaching this problem. So we're all familiar with this chatbot approach right now. So some of these are doing things with text-based prompts where you say, give me a piece of music like such and such, and they're using that medium. I have to say that as a composer, as an instrumentalist, that is a very strange experience. And to me, it doesn't make sense. I understand this is where my opinion part comes in. I understand as a non-musician who wants to generate some music, in their head, they think, well, I want you to write this by doing this, this, and this. That's not really how music works, or at least it wasn't. I think it's becoming how music works, but it's not how music has worked traditionally. Traditionally, it's been more about, well, what do I want to say? How do I want to play this instrument? What kind of sounds do I want to make? Hey, what sounds cool together? I think there's something there that we're going to start to lose, that it just comes down to, we're going to type this in. But that's the model that people are using right now. OpenAI, of course, is a big part of this. They've got a number of different technologies they've been playing with. And you can look all of these up online and study them. In each one of these could be a whole presentation on their own. The one that's Jukebox here is talking about being able to develop rudimentary singing and in a different number of genres and artistic styles. That's interesting. And I think the other thing that's interesting about this is they say that it discovered these patterns of harmony and rhythm and style. They didn't feed it the rules first. They had it discovered on their own, which is interesting, definitely. So where are we headed? So the more current things that I've been able to find on this are pretty interesting. I just want to go ahead and we'll just play a couple of these and then talk about it a little bit more. So this is one of these ones where you can sign up for an account, but they have an example here. Sounds that create a soothing and adventurous atmosphere. Okay. Now, I wouldn't use that. As a musician, as a composer, this would be cheating to me. But if I'm a non-musician and my goal is to create some music for my podcast and have in the background, let's say I'm going to do a podcast that talks about the different kinds of birds in New Jersey. Does New Jersey have birds, like really good birds?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got definitely really good birds in New Jersey. We're gonna do a podcast.
South Jersey.
Okay, South Jersey birds, right?
South Jersey bird.
We're gonna do a podcast. We need some,
They migrate there, actually.
we need some music for our bird podcast. Here's our music for our podcast. Well, okay, now we have to figure out, well, who owns that? Is that ours? Could somebody else type this in and get the same thing? It's not really unique to me necessarily. So there's a lot of questions that come into that. Here's another one here. This one's scary. It's a little scary.
Baby, we've got nothing in common, but I know that I'm what you've been wanting for so long now.
Okay, so that's really good. That's their demo. But the idea there is give me something in the style of this particular artist using their voice with print and spit something out. So then that's when you've got artists that are looking at the AI soundscape here, and they're saying, well, as an artist, if I've got a famous voice, people might want to use that voice in their own recordings. It's like I'm their guest artist in their studio. Interesting idea. And here's another one. This is actually very fresh.
Music co-creation with precise control. I can take an input melody that sounds like this. And then you can generate the accompaniment. In this case, some film music.
That's cool. That's just from a prompt?
Yeah. Do you want to hit something else?
Yeah, let's do hip hop.
All right, one sec. Check out this other example where I can control the intensity up or down.
Now, we don't have to play this whole thing, but I just want to call attention. Don't let this smoke and mirrors here get you excited. This part here is nothing new. This is simply a spectrogram. Frequency plot showing you low to high frequency. This is in Adobe. This is Adobe Audition. I use it every day. This is not AI. But what it demonstrates is the ability, even for a human, once you got this, to be able to see these frequencies. This is a sustained low note. This is a sustained high note. This is a beat. Okay, well, if I can see that, I can interpret that diagram that way. What can a computer do? So that's how they're doing. That's like the simplest explanation of how they're able to break this all down. What's also fascinating to me, I never thought we'd get to this point, and I'm glad that I'm wrong. It's interesting how he's done this, is that with computer processing, we can actually separate the instruments in here. And we could pull out the bass, we could pull out the trumpet, the cello, to an extent. There's going to be some artifacts. So that's another use of AI, using this type of plot in addition to AI, we're able to do those types of things. There's a bunch of these other ones here. We'll take a look at a few more. Sounds like Star Trek, right away.
Appalachian Spring.
Appalachian Spring.
That's fun.
Okay, so it's, all these different styles and all these different companies exploring. See this one here. So this one here, this is an example of something I put together. So Wave Tool is it's an application. It runs in your browser, and it's basically like a digital audio workstation that lets you pull in MIDI files and whatnot. But it also has a chat bot that lets you type in what you want. And I compiled this. I'll say I'll compile. I didn't compose it, but this is just a little ditty that I made with Wave Tool. Not going to win any awards. Okay. So I said, write me a melody over top this progression, like an arpeggiated melody. changing the instrument. So I dug that a little bit, then I said, give me a solo. So then it gave me a solo. I did the solo in blocks of like eight notes. And I kind of picked and choose what I liked. So that could be the outro music for the Bird podcast. Now, I could have played that. I could have sat and said, okay, well, I know the key I want to be in. I could come up with this. The drums are very basic. Could have done that, my little drum pad thing. But I didn't. I used the computer to do it. But the way I had to do it was through chat, which to me was very strange. So we've got a few other things here. Is this the last one I want to show? Yeah.
Mobile games are going big with Google Play Games.
Melody Studio, a melody generating application powered by AI from the same people who made Lyric Studio. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be another dinosaur stuck in the past. This is going to be for those people who have trouble coming up with melodies. It's useful to even people like myself because, listen, I am stuck inside of my own little creative box. So using something like Melody Studio to inspire new types of melodies I wouldn't have otherwise thought of and help expand my creativity as an artist, but also help me craft better songs. It also has a built-in chord progression generation feature. You can get ideas for chord progressions of that song that you can then take to your DAW, produce, and then use the melodies that you get from Melody Studio to match those progressions that you also got Melody Studio, and we can just build from there. Let me show you a little bit how it works, and then we're just gonna go ahead and paste our lyrics. Now you see at the top of each line, you're gonna have an add chords feature where you can add different chords from our chords window on the right-hand side. You can also choose to generate new progressions for this particular line, and you can add these different chords as you select different lines here in your song. First and foremost, though, I do want to set the different parameters for our songs, E flat major.
Yeah, so we're not going to watch the whole thing. This is interesting to me. I do find this interesting, except this can be where the most fun is, especially if you're in a room with other people and you're jamming or playing together. This could be where the fun is. You figure out, okay, what key should this be in? You try some stuff. It's just a different way of doing things. And like this guy said when he started out, he doesn't want to be a dinosaur. My overall opinion, even though I could be very kind of concerned about some aspects of this, my general opinion is that I'm in the middle on all this. It's a tool. It's an interesting tool. It's a powerful tool. It's being used in lots of different ways. We don't know exactly where it's all going. And just by this list of companies here, you can see there's a lot of people doing it. We're gonna move through these now. This company, Loudly, the platform that they have is interesting because they do hold the copyrights to all of the music that they've trained their model on. So they've ensured that there's no copyright issues moving forward with people saying, well, you sampled Dr. Dre and we don't want you using any of that stuff. No, they're saying, no, we have all of the rights to the material that we trained our model on. Not all of these are saying that. And there's a number of different ones out here. I think we've got one more for stable audio here. So this is just another prompt type thing. And here they say, it means something that's France, Ibiza, beach, sun. Well, you notice a lot of these have dance music because electronic music is pretty easy to come up with. Again, I'm not endorsing any of these tools, but I wanted to show this so you get an idea of what these companies are charging. These are those ancillary beneficiaries of music. And, why am I going to pay that? Well, there might be a good reason. I'm not going to pay that for these services. but somebody out there apparently they think will. Now this is where it's gonna start to get weird. So I was in a metal band in just after high school for just a summer, okay? And we had pictures of our band bass. We had pictures of our band that were just as bad as this. The real band. Okay, so they did a great job. I know, I was there. Okay, so what's interesting, you can check that out later, but there's this one band that is all AI. It's this guy, Stefan Schmidt. He's got this company that they're training on metal music. And I'm not a big metalhead anymore. I don't have the hair for it. But this is pretty interesting. I'm just going to jump into it.
When it comes to remodeling your bath, there's fact and there's fiction. Fiction is to expect that.
Somebody should have signed up for premium. The rubber to death.
Yeah.
So yeah, the drummer is the best. Little drummer guy on top of the big drummer guy. I was blown away when I saw this. They've got full albums, they've got multiple videos, frostbite workings. I'm not trying to endorse anybody, but I do like these guys. So let's go back to Johnny Cash real quick. Okay, this was an experiment I did back in January. I'm sure it would be different now. My idea was to say, give me a parody of Folsom Prison Blues. And I did it on ChatGPT and Bard. Interesting how the topic is actually pretty good, what it did with the topic, but on the ChatGPT side, it kept some of the lines. Like I know I had it coming out, I know I can't be free. That's one of the original lines. Some of these are original lines, but it did a good job of breaking it up into the different areas.
Oh, that's just.
That's cool.
Bard did not really, it didn't keep the same cadence of the lines. It like used to roam the open web, a cowboy of the bites. It doesn't fit.
Mites.
So the way that it lined everything up was different. But of course you could do further iterations and maybe do something else. I am experimenting, I hesitated to do it, I am experimenting with some original lyrics with my music that I hope to put out sometime soon. I just don't know how to handle the copyright part of it. So maybe I should go to the one session this week.
Right, definitely. Bill's behind.
So yeah, there's a lot of questions here, and what I wanted to kind of come down and say, why are we doing this? And when you answer that, you got to think of who is using it first. So musicians and producers, everybody's looking for better creativity options. Everybody's looking for the next greatest thing. Okay, that's a reason. I found it interesting in WaveTool as an educational exercise, going back and forth. If I wanted to learn more about why it was building the song it was doing, it was actually giving me a reason why certain chords went together. That was good. And then also technical problem solving, splitting up tracks, picking out noise, doing things that mixers and mastering engineers need to do. There's a lot of tools there that are AI now. But then you've got the non-musicians. People are just curious about music. Maybe they want to get in. Well, this is lowering the barrier of entry. It can be lower cost. You don't have to spend a lot on a lot of equipment. You can just do it in your browser. And then you've got the fans. Maybe Frostbite workings are pretty good. They've got fans. I can see why. It's pretty neat. And the other thing about the music industry is it is a very lucrative industry for some people. It's not always lucrative for everybody. But these were numbers as of last year, showing where a lot of this money is going. And again, this gets back to the players in the industry. The bigger technology companies are going to be looking for a piece of the pie. in some way, even if they're not creating the music, if they're providing the technology to create the music, that's really all they care about at the end of the day. I know it's a little bit cynical, but that's my feeling. So these are questions that we don't have to answer today, but why don't we have a little bit of discussion here while we have a few minutes, and if we have any questions or burning thoughts that people want to share. Yeah.
I have two questions. Neither are legal. But first of all, thank you. This was
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you.
I play guitar really badly, but I love it. And
Yeah.
and I have no basic chords.
Yeah.
Some of the songs I play along with are in different keys where I can't.
Yep.
So is there an easy AI tool to adjust the key of a song so I can play along with it?
There are some tools out there for that. I don't know the names of them off the top of my head, but you can also do that with chord charts. If you have a chord chart for something, there's ways to easily flip that into a different key. So I can get some more information.
I have that information. If you download the free program Audacity.
Audacity?
If you use Audacity, you can easily get any song in any key that you wish. You can change pitch without changing tempo. You can change tempo without changing pitch, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
All of that is easily available through Audacity.
yeah.
There's a piece of software called Band in a Box.
Yeah.
It's sort of AI, but it's recorded actual musicians, but it has a lot of tools for transposing.
Yeah, a couple of the ones I listed are kind of modern equivalent to Band in the Box.
One of the guys I coach has a lot of disabilities, but he wrote a song
Uh-huh.
and he wants somebody to put it to music.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, is there an AI tool where I type a poem in and it'll put something to it that'll be like where I can say I want it more upbeat,
Yeah,
one you
there's-
might suggest I can
There's
play with, I
Yeah, I
know
mean,
a bunch probably, but
that Melody Studio thing that we just saw, I think would be an interesting choice for that. There's probably some others that you could explore.
that you can put words in and it'll
Yeah.
write the lyric, music to.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, some programs treat both separately, but then there are some programs coming out that'll treat them together.
What was that called? Melody?
Melody Studio, I think was the one we just.
Thank you.
Which of the programs would take a song and basically divide it up into all of its segments from the way it was created? In other words, if I pick the Beatles song, or if I picked Pharrell Williams or something like that, who actually did do this.
Yep.
But is there a program that would basically take a song that you like and divide it up into
Yeah.
all its components?
There's several programs, Wave Tool, the one that
Wave Tool.
Wave Tool does that.
Does that?
The thing is, like, you'll find that a lot of times under the heading of karaoke programs, because people that want to sing karaoke, they want to take out the vocal. So that's the same concept. The thing that I dislike about those programs is that they oversimplify the whole idea of how music is produced and recorded. You know, when music is produced and recorded, you've got separate tracks in the studio. All of those are, I call it making a pizza. All of that stuff is, all those ingredients are put on the pizza and the pizza's put in the oven. Once that pizza is baked in the oven, yeah, you can separate things, but you're gonna get a pile of grease and you're gonna get some mushrooms that are kind of slimy, and it's not gonna taste like a pizza anymore. If there's a reason you're doing it, that's fine. But
Well, I think as a learning tool.
as a learning tool,
As
yeah,
a learning tool, you want to look at a really great recording. I mean, you were talking about the John Cash song,
Mhm.
but the second song is actually a sound recording of it, and it's a compulsory license that can be done. That is not AI generated.
no.
But in terms of in terms of listening to a great recording that's very well mixed and very well done,
Right.
okay? Sometimes you can be listening to a song on the radio and be singing a different melody on top of the bass.
Yeah.
And you can create your own song from the basic elements of the song.
Yeah, because
Okay.
chord progressions
So
aren't copyrightable.
that's a learning tool.
Yeah,
I think it would be ideal to be able to pull apart great songs and see the way they were constructed.
Yeah, that's actually being done quite a bit. It wasn't the
Yeah.
focus of this particular talk, but that's available out there. Yeah.
Follow up to that. Any of them have a sheet music output and a sheet music input. In other words, if I input
Yep.
actual written music, will it play it for me? And if I input, as she said, somebody else's music,
Mhm.
can I get the sheet music out of it?
Yep, that's out there.
Muse does that.
Yeah,
MUSE.
MUSC, yeah,
Finale.
and Finale. Yeah.
Finale do that.
On some of the programs for just creating an original song, you have the prompts.
Yeah.
Can you put in as a prompt the time signatures that you want to use? If I wanted
Usually,
a song in 5/8.
yeah, usually you can do that. Some of them I think are better than others. When I was playing with Wave Tool, I asked it for like a 12-bar blues progression. And it didn't really give me a 12-bar blues progression, so I had to coax it out. So you might have to,
So some of them might or
some
might
of them
not.
might, some of them
What
might
I
not.
mean, if I said I wanted
Yeah,
13/8 meter.
yeah. And there's so many, you see, there's so many different platforms out there. They all have a little bit different, flavor. to
Like each kind of has its own strength.
Yeah.
Many of the, I thought you shared one that would actually mimic the way the person sings, like an Elton John or
Yep,
Johnny Cash. Are there ones that do that?
there are, and the copyright people are very scared about them. Publishers, everybody's very freaked out.
Yeah, so I make videos and I know almost nothing about music.
Mhm.
Okay, but periodically I need to create, like, I have an intro for my videos.
Yeah.
And I've overlaid it with the 20th Century Fox theme. But I'd like to have something different.
Yeah,
It's not copyright.
yeah.
I don't sell the videos, it's just, I would do that. So I had the whole intro that I made in Blender with the moving lights and everything. And like, where could I go to? I tried a couple of sites, but I wasn't happy with what I was able to get. What's a good place to go to get music generated from a prompt?
Well, I mean, a lot of these, I can make this available so you could dig deeper in some of these. What I would think you might want to try instead would be, and we didn't talk about this, but prior to AI, and it still exists now, is a thing called royalty-free loop libraries.
Right.
Okay, and so any style of music that you can think of, pretty much, somewhere out there, if you look at bigfish.com or Prime Loops, I think is another company, provides the building blocks of songs that you can then put together and clip something together for your podcast or whatever. They're royalty free, and most of the time you're not going to get a copyright strike on YouTube if you use those. Sometimes you do though.
So I mean, what would I go in and look for example? Would I say like thematic,
Just royalty free loop library.
I mean, but like the type of music, I mean, that's
Well, that would be, if you're looking for the Century 21 theme, that's like orchestral,
okay.
orchestral instrumental. And I'd be more than happy to help you on that subject after the talk if you want to get some more details.
Right.
Okay.
So a big thing in the industry these days is the whole spatialization thing with how many channels can we possibly have and, all that sort of stuff. And then also just with regard to that type of music being done by the audio engineers, they're doing like a gazillion tracks. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to these talks or seeing some
Yeah.
virtual talks and they're like, oh, I've got 193 tracks, it's
Yeah.
like, so the software is creating all these tools. Do you have any comments about all this stuff?
I have not, I've played around with spatial audio a little bit, but it's very outside of anything that's realistic for me as a performer, as an artist, as a listener. If you're working at Skywalker Sound,
Right.
learn about it. That's the thing you need to learn. I'm not working at Skywalker Sound. But the other thing is, to me, it's a little bit, I don't know, it's a little disingenuous to think that the spatial audio thing, if you're just doing binaural and you're doing it psycho
Yes.
psychoacoustics, that's interesting. But if you're expecting the person at home to have 15 extra speakers, just like surround sound,
Right.
most people
Right.
don't have that set up at home, or if they do, it's not set up properly. So that for me takes a lot of the excitement out of study, particularly in
Maybe
my.
for the big theaters,
Yeah,
but even those are having trouble
right.
with that.
A lot of theaters I go to watch, we don't go out to theaters much anymore, but when we do, I'm almost always disappointed by the sound. And I don't think having spatial audio is gonna improve that. I think they need to get stereo right first. I think get surround right first, you know.
I'm a member of the audio, longtime member of the Audio
Yes.
Engineering Society, and the industry goes up and down like that. It's like the next greatest thing, oh, that was garbage. And so
Right,
I think
right.
we're in that mood again with how many tracks do you have, how many different specializations can
Yeah.
you create? But, you know, personally, I don't really see,
I don't-
I agree with you.
I don't care. Like, if I'm gonna sit and listen to Johnny Cash, I don't need spatial audio. And all of the music that's been recorded up till now, if they're gonna try to make spatial mixes of that, to me, it's just a gimmick at that point.
Yeah.
Um,
And they are making spatial mixes of a lot of stuff.
Nick Cave, I thought had a really great quote here, and you know, AI doesn't suffer, it doesn't struggle. And these are all things that we do as humans that makes music and creativity special. And so that is my talk, and I will be around for questions, and I'll be here all day. I'm actually gonna hang out for the next couple sessions here. Did you have another question?
Yeah, no, it's kind of just an FYI.
Yeah.
Something I picked up at the Capitol Audio Festival was that all recorded music prior to December 31st, 1923 is now in the public domain and is free to be used, mixed and combined.
Cool.
So all those acoustic recordings from that era, it's available for you to use now. Free of royalty, it's been declared by Congress to be in the public domain.
That was the Mickey Mouse law.
Oh, the Mickey Mouse stuff.
They had put a hold on it, and they kept
Yeah.
getting extended,
Yeah.
but finally that's over.
They wouldn't have. And the court decision from 1909, I believe, said that music had to be in written form to be copyrighted. The audio version could not be. Recorded music.
That's interesting,
records could
because
not be. And that's been changed as well.
yeah, that's been changed.
Here's the question. If somebody goes and performs Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, is that recording now copyrighted?
It can be.
The recording
Yeah,
itself.
the recording.
It's the instance, it's the
Yeah.
performance instance. You'll
But
hear
they
more
don't have
about
to pay
that.
anybody to perform that.
No, not Beethoven, no.
Just so you're gonna make this available?
I can make this available.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, how do I?
Yeah.
That's,
Get
we arranged
there-
it.
I
That's like why they
the
colorize.
videos of all of this are gonna be available on the
Oh, that's
TCF
different.
website
I can
after.
give you my card.
So, but, yeah.
Or make special editions of movies.
Any other questions over here?
Question for you. Other question?
So I'm curious if you happen to know with any of these tools, how they are trained. Is it just using wave files and like the audio signal, or is it using track layers? Is it using musical notation? I guess my question is this classically or improvised? Is it classically trained? Like
No, most of these are not classically trained. So the one, actually the Frostbite workings is interesting because they said, we're gonna play a bunch of metal music. Right? We're gonna record it. We've got these wave files. Now we're gonna dump them into our model. And the model's gonna churn away for a while. And now we're gonna go and say, okay, this is what I want the model to generate from our recordings, which we own, so we don't have to worry about the lawyers, right? But it's just wave files, it's just data. And just like I showed you that spectrogram, and when we look at a wave file, we can see there's two plots. There's amplitude, which is your wave, and then that's the computer loves that. So then they can churn away on it.
Do you know, if there's a tool to do what the orcas were doing? So like make my own personal AI just from my own recording.
Well, I think that's what they want to get to.
Okay.
They're just starting. So like if they can build it so that you yourself can do it with your band, that would be cool. You know, I don't know if that's what their goal is or if they're gonna keep it in-house, you know.
Right, their signature maybe.
Yeah. There's another.
I think we're on time. Make this the last one.
Okay.
and-
Yeah. Image you had, how much creative effort do you think can be offloaded onto a non-human artist before the output would become irrelevant to the human experience? and sort of start to create a culture of alienation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of my, as an artist, I just find that when I look at my catalog, okay, I might not have the greatest songs or anything, but I know that I created them based on my life experience. And if there's not that life experience or that suffering or whatever else it is, then it's just background music. You know, and we got plenty of background music for our podcast there. We don't need any more of that. But, all right, well, thank you.